This is the meeting of the Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience and Erosion Control Board of October 21, 2025. Let's just go around and state for the record who is here. This is Becky Bunnell, Chair.
Anish Jain, alternate.
Carolyn Camlet, alternate.
John Fallon, Secretary.
Greg Podolsky, member.
John Dilly, Vice Chair.
Keith Bradley, member.
Charles Abercrombie, member of the board.
Okay, so we have 6 regulars, so we can have one alternate step up to be a member.
Do we need one?
Well, we can. We don't need we don't need it as a quorum, but we can have you step up to vote.
Okay.
I did last time.
I'm supposed to alternate, so if you were last time, then
Okay,
Carolyn, would
great.
you be
Thank you.
willing to step up and become a
I
full
will,
member?
thank you very much.
And now you may move.
Now you may move. All right, thank you. So let's go to the first agenda item, which is to hear, consider, and act upon the minutes of September 29th meeting. They were sent out. It was a special called meeting. Does anyone have any comments or edits that they would like to put forward? No?
Well done. It's fine.
Move to accept.
We have one move to accept.
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. All right. The next agenda item is update and discussion of the status of active projects. I did not get a chance to touch base with Bill, so I do not have a detailed update on the status. As far as I know, everything is progressing. I did try to reach out to Eli, well, this is actually item 4, but it's an active project, to try to see where we were with the status of the notice of violation. I did not hear back from Eli, so I do not have any updates.
I can give you one tidbit about Penfield.
Oh, okay.
There's somebody in engineering, last name Lehman, Scott, maybe? And
He's the surveyor.
Oh,
so the surveyor was up and measuring elevation at Penfield. Not sure for what reason. I only know because I know somebody who tagged along with him to learn how to use surveying equipment. Being my son.
and
So he
was it at 8 feet elevation or what?
I forget what Michael said, but they were up there and they did all sorts of measurements around Penfield. And I said, did he mention NOV? I was probing for information. I got very little.
The surveyor probably wouldn't have known where the NOV status is. They're
He
probably,
probably doesn't know the NOV status, but it was just, I was wondering if he was going up there at our behest of saying, hey, what's the status? But I do know that they were doing some surveying up there and it was elevation based.
okay. Well, I mean, well, the interesting thing about the whole NOV process and the whole, back and forth between FEMA and the town is FEMA never actually said it had to be elevation 8. Every single document they gave to the town, from what I could see, was stated between elevation 8 and 9. And they used that language consistently. So I think if we've gotten an inch or two extra, I don't think that would be a problem at all, because that was their language that they used consistently through all of their documentation. I think so. I could be
As
wrong.
long as we're on that subject, I've emailed Attorney Pierce.
Pierce.
Yeah.
Pierce, twice with no response. I suggested if he can't find something official from FEMA, that he should generate a self-serving letter. It's our understanding that.
Yeah.
John Gracie is working. I know that because I had to deal with him on the project in Milford.
Did he
So-
come to, did he travel? Oh, okay, okay.
But, so I know he is working, so they can receive information.
Right.
And if we can't get anything, I've got the email from John that says they're not going to stop us using it
Right.
pending their final determination. But I still think that the town should do something proactively so that if FEMA, if John Gracie is no longer with FEMA and somebody else is there and they want to go and say, what are you using this building for? We can at least say, we notified you that it was our understanding, et cetera. But I did one email and a follow-up, and I haven't gotten a response yet.
Okay. We should probably continue to follow up.
Yeah.
And also, again, while on that topic, we jumped down the agenda, but it's under, we should be making sure that as part of the resiliency plan, that they're looking at it and providing us options or going back over options that they had provided over the last 5 or
They
10
did
years.
send us the 6 options that they had provided for the project that was done 2 years ago now. So just remind everyone who was not on the board at the time, about, I want to say at least 2 years ago, maybe it was 2.5 years ago, there was a $100,000 project that was awarded to Race Coastal Engineering to look at the Penfield site and explore options both in front of the building as well as on the street side of the building that would mitigate the elevation shift down to the 8-foot elevation. They did 6 drawings. Those drawings were put on hold by the town while the notice of violation was satisfied. And so they didn't feel, the town did not feel comfortable releasing the drawings, and they did not feel comfortable with us even taking them to the next level. Because drawings, as you probably know, in the process of a project, you start with very early drawings, which are more concept drawings. And then once you've decided what to do, you then take that to a more finished standard of design, which is permit ready, and then you get much better costings. And so there's a whole process of
Get much better
costs.
costs,
Because
sorry.
you've now done a design that is able to be really costed out. Whereas in the concept drawings, I mean, you can see and make rough cost estimates, but you're not going to have the quality that you are once you've got a permit ready design. So we've never taken them further than the concept design stage. I think we have gotten permission from the town, although I should just check this again, to share those with this board. I know they did not want them shared with the public, but we probably could do that in our next meeting, at least share those 6
We have
designs.
to go into executive session, so
Oh,
that
maybe, so it wouldn't be a public.
so it wouldn't be a public hearing, so they wouldn't be publicly available.
That might be the way to do it. I don't know
Can I
if
ask
you're
a
allowed to-
stupid question? What will that achieve? What were they trying to do through that drawings?
So the drawings were, so basically, before we received the notice of violation, what had driven that was that the town had put in what DEEP and FEMA considered a flood control structure. Basically, it was a wooden kind of berm, sort of in front of the building that was what?
Yeah, I remember that.
That was considered by FEMA and DEEP to be a flood control structure. And they said it was illegally put in, and even though there was some back and forth about, we did actually receive original, I think, approval from DEEP to do it, and then they rescinded them. It's a little unclear to me exactly who said what at the time, because everyone's gone. Dick, I don't know if you have any tighter
We do.
assessment. of
That was, previous Public Works Director put that in, and then it was continued during the Penfield rebuild, I think. Or the first Penfield rebuild. And, so we never got
unclear what we
explicit permission from DEEP to put that in.
I think there was some
And
verbal.
then
okay.
subsequently, the grade beam was deemed to be a flood and erosion
Yeah,
control
that
structure.
was the real
That's
issue.
what
That's the
led to
notice of
this
violation.
latest rebuild where this foundation is unacceptable, you have to use a different foundation.
But what that wooden berm flood control structure had done was that it allowed sand to accrete to, instead of the 8 to 9 feet that FEMA claims is the historical sand level, sand had accreted up to around 10 to 11. And so they're saying you put in a structure that allowed the grade to change erroneously, you should never put that in, and the grade should always have been at that 8 to 9 level. And therefore the grade beams should have been down at that 8 to 9 level, because we put the grade beams in at the level that the sand had accreted to, which was 1.5 feet, almost 2 feet higher than what FEMA said historically had been the grade at that site. So that was the whole reason for the notice of violation, is that we erroneously put in a flood control structure that accreted sand, and then we built a grade beam to the higher level, and it never should have been allowed, and it should have been to the original level. Anyway,
So what's gonna be the solution to this?
so the solution is a series of these 6 drawings are some drawings. We actually do need to give feedback as part of our master plan process on those 6 drawings. And we need to say, are we willing to have them look at further at 1 or 2 of those with any kind of modifications or not? So some of those drawings were things like a dune in front at a 12-foot elevation level that would allow at least some level of storm protection, even though the storm might ultimately wash that dune away, and we would have to then continue to
But
replenish.
it would only be the width of Penfield Pavilion.
It would tie into Rickards Beach on the high end and Jackie Durrell. Jackie Durrell is high, Rickards Beach is high, Penfield goes down.
Right.
So
What's that width?
it's about 400 feet,
400 feet.
roughly. So some of them were in the front, and then some were in the backside, where we looked at things like raising the road a little bit and putting like a wall in. So we'd have to go back and really look at those drawings to see which ones we feel comfortable them.
But with this rebuilding of the Penfield, doesn't that take care of any damage to the?
No, so what happens, it's, the pavilion itself is not what people are worried about. What they're worried about is you get a sandy level storm where the elevation of the Stillwater elevation, I think, was 9.2, 9.4, 9.5. And we've got an elevation 8, so your water's gonna rush right under the pavilion and flood.
Right to your house.
Okay.
And even with Sandy, it scoured and rushed under. So, I mean, you know, even if you built a 12-foot elevation, we would have kept Sandy out. So the idea was, you know, and again, to be clear, Penfield is only one big, long, low level. There are, as we saw when we did our tour, many low levels along the beach. So water will get in no matter what, but it may not come in with the velocity and the damage potential that it would if it just rushed under the pavilion and rushed into the housing behind.
So the meeting that we had on October 2nd, where they were discussing, maybe potential options, will they recommend these kind of things in that?
Well, that's what I put onto my recommended schedule. So let's actually move on to item number 3, which is a discussion of the master plan mitigation and flood resilience plan. So one thing they did, they had provided a schedule.
They meaning,
They had provided a schedule, which I think I sent out to you originally, earlier.
the
This is the consultant.
results.
This had been what they provided for the October 2nd meeting. I sent this out to you all. I felt like it was a very rushed schedule, and it didn't address how to tie in the meetings to what the project deliverables were. And I felt like we needed to really take a step back and say, all right, what are the steps that need to happen as we progress this project? Who do we need to get approval from? At what stage? At what, and they've got like long blocks in for concept development of coastal segments and riverine segments and fluvial segments with a bunch of meetings across it. But I mean, we need to sort of step back and say, okay, why do we need meetings there? If they, what are they gonna show us? Should we just wait and see all the coastals ones at once, the pluvial ones at once? Should we wait and see everything at once? I mean, we need to really step back and say, why would I waste 3 meetings here?
Hey, are the 6 ideas that they were talking about for Penfield, is that on this sheet anywhere or not?
No,
Have they been
That's
considered?
what I'm
by
saying,
the
like, it should be part of that.
they were done by race, so that.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, I guess,
They have those 6. They developed them 2.5 years ago for the town. So they will probably, if we say we want some designs for Penfield, they've got 6 of them in the can. What we need to do is say, we want to look at those 6, say, we like 2 of these, but we want them a little different. We'd
Okay.
like this done
but
this
they'll be
way.
presented as part of these,
They
whatever's
were not
happening.
presented at all they were not presented to town. They were, as I said before, they were basically presented to a very small, high-level group of town.
Okay, so they're separate from this,
And-
it's not,
and
it
they
won't
were-
be included in what they're presenting at some other later time.
Yeah, so I don't think the
Yes.
consultants have seen those 6 plans.
They developed them.
No, they
No,
didn't.
no.
This new consultant.
Oh, Weston and Sampson
They
Weston
haven't
and
seen it.
Sampson and
probably
Race
hasn't.
are 2 different
So they won't be
contracts,
able
2
to
different
opine if
consulting.
any of these should be
Yeah.
used as part of the solution.
Race did Penfield,
But as
Weston
your
Sampson is
Doing the other.
doing the resiliency.
For the
Race
coastal and
coastal.
field.
Or more coastal.
So they've subcontracted to Race.
Okay.
Race did those initial 6.
Nick,
So-
wasn't this guy that was sitting here, wasn't he the race guy?
Devin?
Yeah, at one of our meetings, wasn't race?
Race was here on the original kickoff meeting.
Okay.
Devin was here, and then Azure D works also for Race, and she's the lead on this project for Race. But Devin often comes to the big meetings.
I'm just confused that the 6 that supposedly were done at some time
2.5 years ago.
prior.
They were
now
done.
I thought we put everything together with this master plan. So I'm asking, are those 6 gonna be part of their feedback on the master plan?
No, so what I'm proposing is that we look at those 6 in a session that maybe is off the
Okay.
record, what do we call it?
Executive
Executive
session.
session, because the town has not officially approved those to be shared publicly. We look at those 6, we say, of those 6, we like 2 and 4, but we want some changes to those.
Okay.
We then feed that back to Race, and then those 2 become part of the master plan. I mean, we could put all 6 in if we want, but there's no reason to.
Could I make a comment?
Yes.
In the capital plan that was done in the capital plan workshop, there's a line item for $100,000, which I believe is for this Penfield study that was put on the table 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago. And that had, and I forget what the annotation was, but it's like, oh, this is off, we're gonna do this other ways or something.
Well,
Is there-
86,000 was spent of it.
Huh?
86,000 of that 100
Okay.
was spent.
I'm just saying it was there, that was my assumption of what it was. I believe that Penfield is almost a special case, that we should carve it out of this master plan thing and treat it as its own entity. And this thing about these 6 drawings are tippity top secret. Well, if you go back to the Penfield rebuild, these 6 drawings basically were in that project. They were on the table, they were part of the files of that project. So this is not new, unique information that needs to be tippity top secret. So I don't get that.
We were asked by the town to.
Yeah,
Fully public.
well, maybe the town has a different opinion now since we have different
We
players.
should ask that. That's a good question to ask. Bill Gerber had asked it not to be shared
I
publicly,
understand that.
so I just wanted to honor that until I'm told differently.
I think the thinking was that if you throw something like that into the mix, that just would cause FEMA to start potentially reevaluating the whole situation.
Well, they were worried that
The
if
whole
FEMA
process.
heard that we were planning to do a major resilience project, that they would not, that somehow they would maybe not satisfy the
Release
notice.
to the NOV.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so they didn't want FEMA to be,
Which is what he told me. He told me basically, we can evaluate all these plans, we just can't put a shovel in the sand until we get the NOV released.
Yeah.
And he told me that, I called him on the ride home from the day we did the walk.
In dealing with a governmental agency, I can really understand that.
yeah. So I think we have to honor that, but it doesn't mean we can't look at them, it doesn't mean we can't feed back, it doesn't mean we can't tighten them up if we feel that we'd like to see a version of them. So why don't we put that on the agenda for
But
next?
the other thing is, we can't put a shovel in the ground until we get everybody and their brother's permit to do so. So you need to have a plan to present to the permitting bodies to say, hey, this is what we want to do. We believe it's
Compliant?
compliant, thank you. Compliant with all your regulations because blah, 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 blah. What do you think? So,
But I think the idea in this thing, we built into the timeline for this whole project 2 meetings with regulators. And the idea was after all the concept work had been done, we would, at least the preliminary concept work, we would then meet with the regulators and show them all of the ideas and say, which would include Penfield, and say, here's our master plan for the town. Which of these would you feel uncomfortable about permitting? And that way, it's part of it's part of the whole town plan. It's not just Penfield.
Which
So,
is to your point, it's
so-
400 feet, but there's, water's gonna get in, and we saw this when we walked it, right? I mean, this was to protect the homes directly behind Penfield, but,
unless we plug unless we try to plug all the holes.
yeah, but yeah, we saw the price tag on that, right?
Well, that's plugging them to a FEMA
Oh, okay.
standard of much higher.
Those
That
are
elevation.
permanent plugs, those are not temporary.
Yeah, so we could do temporary plugs for some of the other ones. I mean, we could choose to do that, and I think we need to show what that might look like as one of our options. So that's one of the things we want to do tonight. So let me tell you what we want to do tonight. What I'd like us to do is start, if everyone has their, if they don't have it, I brought a couple extra copies. I don't know who else needs one. I didn't make it for everyone, but I did make a couple extra copies. It's a very, I apologize, it's a small font.
You have it?
I've got one, I think,
I printed it out as is,
yeah,
sorry,
it's pretty
Greg.
small.
So
My glasses aren't any better than yours.
So I'll read these out. I added some steps. If you look at Part A, all of those have been pretty much completed. And that was the assessment of the vulnerabilities and risks. So those were all the maps that we saw. Then they basically did the visualizations and communication of risks. And that is basically, now that we've done those maps, tightening up the, do we have the right blue spot flooding areas? Have we gone to the relevant other parts of the town to get a sense of, does conservation think we're missing some, river pluvial or riverine flooding areas that aren't on some of these blue spot maps? So I said that the town, so if you look at 2.1A, I added in, town needs to provide a total town feedback on the blue spot flooding. And I suggested that Bill Hurley or Anthony reach out to emergency management, to conservation, to other parts of the town that might indeed identify another flooding spot that was not captured. Bill Hurley's already done his analysis. He's added a couple flooding stuff to it.
We were gonna do that.
Well, I was gonna,
Asking Bill to do it could be 2027.
well, Chuck offered.
Due respect.
Chuck did offer to run it around to everyone. So if Bill has not done it yet, why don't I will offer you up as someone who can run it around too.
According to this, it is this week on the chart.
I know, I might need to move, I may need to change this and push it back.
I thought this was very specific thing that we were saying certain roads should not be flooded, the escape routes and things like that, right? That was the whole idea behind.
Well, it's partly that, and
right.
the other, I guess the other part we should probably also capture in here is another line, which is basically a detailed assessment of what the town believes are escape routes.
Exactly, so we needed that input before
yeah.
anything could be done, I
So why don't
thought.
we add that in as a
We
2.1C?
talked about critical infrastructure, we talked
Yeah.
about escape routes, and we also talked at some level about historical sites.
Right. And we asked that they put those on the map, actually. We did that in the October 2nd meeting, I asked them to put those on the map, but they maybe need us to identify them. So critical infrastructure, evacuation routes.
Yeah, I think if town provides that, then I think it
And
becomes
historical.
simple to say what we want to protect.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think it needs to be done, it needs to be put on the
Where
master
the
map.
blue spots are critical.
Yeah, it needs to be put on the master map.
Yeah.
Then I think what we need to do is, before they start any concept development work, we need a list of, the way the RFP was originally written is that they were gonna do 2 concepts for 15 segments of town. It was sort of put a little oddly in the sense that 15 segments were split between coastal and riverine and downtown and underpass. We might want to change the number of each, because I think the coastal had probably had more than their fair share of those segments. So we might want to shift some of those back into riverine or fluvial concept things. So I think we need to kind of provide our best guess of if we have commissioned 30 concepts, which were really 15 areas of concept development and two concepts for each area. Where are those 15 areas? And we could shift them from coastal back to riverine or to whatever. Because we may not want them to do a concept for underpasses. We have a really good study already on underpasses that was done by AECom. And they gave us 6 or 7 different options. We may only want them to opine. What would they do? What would they recommend? We don't need them to
If we
develop
show
new
them the
concepts.
options.
They've seen it. It was in the background we gave them. So I think part of our list should be, we want you to develop concepts for these. We want you to opine on these. There could be, like the other area that I think we have some really good concepts for, is basically South Benson Marina, Jennings Beach, tie into South Benson Marina, tie into Ash Creek open space. So basically going up along the line from the high ground of Jennings Beach up to Ash Creek open space, and then probably maybe raising Turney Road or something like that. Which would allow the water to not come in. Right now, it comes in through Ash Creek in a couple different spaces, and that would keep that from happening.
So are we clear in our minds, what do we want to save if that happens? Like, I think on the October 2nd meeting, the impression I got was the primary focus was saving downtown. That somehow I got that. I could be totally
No,
wrong.
you're,
right?
I think you're right,
Yeah.
but I think that
So in our mind, like, are we clear prioritization, if we had to prioritize because the dollars will be limited, what we can invest? Do we have a clarity? So we say the blue spots, priority 1, because we want escape routes and all these things to be safe. What is priority 2, 3, 4, 5?
Well, blue spots are just-
Like if you have that list of 15, can we
Yes.
prioritize that?
we should do that.
Also.
That's exactly what we should do.
Okay.
So one of the things, just to give you some context, that since not everyone was able to be there at the October 2nd meeting, is one of the things we talked about is, one way to think about this town is, you've got this whole big coastal area, here's Ash Creek, here's Pine Creek, and here's Vasco, and this is the whole flood zone. But the reality is, this is Town Hall, this is the fire station, this is the police station, this is Sherman School, this is all of our historical stuff, this is our museum. So all of these things along Route 1, if everyone can see all this, all these things along Route 1 are actually pretty far away from where the ocean is going to come in. So maybe one way to think about doing this is building a berm here, rather than trying to fortify here,
Yeah.
which would mean that all these houses here would have to either elevate or get flooded.
Yeah.
And that's a viable way to think about this, and it's certainly a much cheaper way.
I'm
and
sorry,
maybe
build
this-
the berm where?
I'm sorry about the bad. So this is Sasko Hill.
Right.
This is the beach. Pine Creek comes in here, and there's all the marshes in here. This is Ash Creek over here, South Benson Marina.
Right.
So and this is Reef Road. So basically, this is the 15% of our housing stock that sits in a floodplain.
Right.
But you've got Town Hall, you've got Sherman School, you've got the History Museum, you've got the police station, you've got fire, you've got the senior center. So you've got a lot of your, what I'd call town critical infrastructure in the floodplain, but in this section of the floodplain.
Right.
So what if you figured out how to berm this or protect this? It's a lot less than trying to protect all of this, and a lot cheaper.
Which eventually people should raise their house and save that.
Yeah, and a lot of people have already raised their houses. So a lot of these houses, and this is partly what we were having you do in your subcommittee, which is, how many of these houses have already been raised? If we find that, 65%, I'm making this up, are already raised, there's not a lot of risk for those 65 from a flood. There might be risk from other things, wind, other things, but the flood is supposed to just go in and then out again, with the tide. So then there are 35% that maybe aren't going to be raised, but, that's.
But the downtown area more commonly floods from rain events than it ever has from, to my
Right.
knowledge, it's never flooded. The downtown area is never flooded from the ocean.
No, that's correct, so far.
Right.
So far. But we do know that in some of the maps, the water from the ocean, if in the intense storms and sea level rise, it would come over Route 1. And especially over here in the Commerce Drive area, it'll definitely come over the railroad tracks. It'll even go towards 95.
There was a difference with Sandy, and it would have hit.
It would have.
Would
Exactly.
have gone over.
And Sandy wasn't even a hurricane.
Yeah.
So I do think that there was a large consensus that one of the things we should ask them to look at is, what would protecting this scenario look like? And I don't know if that's one concept, or if that's, if they're gonna tell us, well, we'd have to do 5 concepts in that. I don't know, but one of the scenarios we talked about is, help us understand what this would look like. The other thing we said is, you've got a bunch of people here who are going to say, well, how much extra does it cost to do this? And maybe we should do this. So what I was saying in that same meeting is, another scenario is, let's talk about what berming this all up would look like and what that would
They weren't open to
cost.
that idea.
What?
I don't think they were open to that
I
idea.
don't think it matters, because the reality is, our residents are taxpayers,
We
and
should assess that.
and we should show them, we have We have a cost on what it would protect to a FEMA level. That was the Army Corps of Engineers study, which was 2019, and it was $546 million. We have that data. It's 6-foot walls. No one's gonna want that, but there is probably a scenario where if you did a 12-foot elevation down there, you could make it look very natural, you could make it look like a landscape that looks like it is today. You'd fill all the little holes, you could fill Penfield, you'd fill all the others, maybe they're temporary structures, but you could do it, and
I think
it's,
they were talking about you have to bring sand periodically, maintain
well,
it.
that was if you were gonna do it through a sand, basically a berm.
Okay.
So Army Corps did do a berm, and what they did say is that what we're finding for Long Island Sound in particular, in places like Florida, they said you're able to basically go grab sand from out in the ocean, blow it up onto the beaches, and do replenishment projects. And very easily, it's the same level of sand, same degree of sand size, all the things you have to worry about when you're doing replenishment. You're basically taking the sand that the ocean washed out and pumping it back up. And they're allowed to do that. Apparently, Long Island Sound does not let you do that. Deep does not let us do that with Long Island Sound. So even though our sand may have washed out, we can't go pump it back up
I
again.
had a situation with that in West Haven. They're constantly replenishing the same beach. It's constantly getting washed out. The ideal thing to do would be take the sand we put there 10 years ago and just pump it back and spray it back, but
They don't let
DEEP
you.
will not allow
They
it.
will not allow
And
it.
it's actually all that sand is actually going and choking rivers
Yeah.
that are draining to the sound, because every 5 or 10 years, they have to replenish it because the beach gets that eroded. And all that happens is that eroded sand just goes further and further into the sound.
We're finding that with Pine Creek. All of the sand went down the coast
Yep.
and is now clogging up the mouth of Pine
Yeah.
Creek, but because it's not a
But deep
navigable
is-
waterway, we can't,
Deep
there's money to.
really doesn't like the idea of harvesting sand that arrived there by other than natural means.
And every other town,
Because
every
of
other
the
state,
impact on marine life, or what's the
I
deal?
don't know.
it's just they're tight on that. It's
Yeah.
just they don't allow it. So what that means is we have to then buy
This is very
on the
expensive.
open market sand that has the same grain size appropriately.
And then you gotta pay to transport
You
it
have
from
to
Cape
truck
Cod.
it. You have to truck it in, and then you probably have to redo that every 5 years. So it's very expensive, and they're saying there's not even enough sand.
Yeah, that
going
was the
around.
thing. they were saying. Who would have
So,
thought that?
so it's probably not gonna be
This, yeah.
a sand berm. We might want to go in and reinforce Jennings a little bit, or Rickards, and some of our existing ones. But I think we'd have to think about other things, and that's where things like, you know, maybe raising the road, Fairfield Beach Road came in, and maybe a small natural stone wall
Yeah.
that you could put, you could put things, gates in front of that you could then close to protect the driveways and stuff.
So these are the kind of things that we'll have to list, the 15 things. you're
These are the
saying,
things we'll
right?
have to list. So we need to just list, what we owe back to the consultant is our town-wide, not just, we as a Flood and Erosion Control Board owe our list back to the town project team, which is Emmeline and Bill Hurley, and us. We owe our list to them. So our job is to create that list as a board, and then get their list, combine it into one list, and then give that to the consultant. But I also want the consultant to come back and give us their list,
All right.
because we're paying them for that. That's their job, is to tell us what they would do
Right, exactly.
with the projects. So, well, I'd like to propose one, and this may be one or it may be five, I don't know. But I'd like to propose, if everyone agrees, that one of our concept areas is how would we sort of protect and berm what I'd call the critical downtown historical infrastructure. And I would put Sherman School in there, although we don't have to. I mean, maybe that would, there's a whole marsh right on this side of Sherman School. I don't know if you guys know, and it kind of goes up until the town hall area too. So you have to be careful what you're able to berm up in a marsh. You can't really go into the marsh itself, because it's not allowed. So, but would everyone agree that that should be one of our asks?
I think so.
I think that makes sense.
Yes.
Whatever,
Besides the blue spot, that should be,
yeah.
because I think you need the police station, fire station to work. and operate properly during the time of emergency like this, so, yeah.
And I'd be open to having the
Absolutely.
senior center be out of it if we needed to.
Yeah, but the town hall.
Because that's again right near a big
fire,
marsh.
But I don't
Those
think the
three
seniors are
needs-
gonna go to there to congregate during a storm, you know what I mean? Like, it's a really great facility, I don't know it's a critical facility during a storm. That make sense?
It's not during a storm, but I mean, it's more a question of what do we want to protect from a future
Yeah,
storm?
that's fair.
Like the wastewater treatment plant, we did to elevate a 500-year storm, and we bermed it all the way around with walls and berms and things where, and a elevated roadway and everything, so that we basically would protect that to a very high-level storm. I don't know that you need to protect this to quite that high of a level storm. We are fairly inland. The wastewater treatment plant was right down near the water.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think we could still protect this to elevation 12 if we wanted to, and probably be okay by the time the stormwaters got up here. They're not gonna be as intense, and they're not gonna be,
Energy's out of it.
yeah. So I
And the
personally,
senior center is not like a rescue place or where people.
no, I think the
shelter.
schools.
It's not one of the
schools,
shelters,
I
it's the
think, are-
schools, right?
The schools,
Ludlow
and I think particularly the high schools.
Ludlow is, I think, I remember from Sandy.
Ludlow
Days.
is definitely one, and I thought Ludlow and Ward were the two.
Okay,
Emergency shelters
Yeah, they may,
so we don't need to worry about senior center for that.
Past Ludlow.
for that.
Ludlow's definitely one, I know that.
One question, if you're protecting the buildings for the PD and the fire department, how do they provide their critical services if they're isolated?
Well, the way the wastewater treatment plant did is they had a road that went up and in, and I think we would probably want to do something similar so that you could access it and still get in and out.
But you don't have the space around there to do that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It gets
yeah.
to be kind of tricky.
And maybe that's where there's a temporary structure.
I thought somebody had told me that they had built something up by Sacred Heart for emergency management. They'd already established a footprint further inland for emergency management.
That's interesting, okay.
I thought I had heard that before, but then I know there was a project to
Yeah.
establish a pseudo home base in the police station on the capital planning meeting, so. But I had heard that they had moved some level of emergency management up towards
Is
Sacred
that,
Heart.
is that the
There's the
emergency?
communication center,
That's the
isn't it?
communication
Yeah,
center that's
right.
shared with Westport. It's shared with multiple towns.
Okay,
And it's basically a call center,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, 911 call center.
Which is everything from police to fire to,
It's not a place for them to operate out of, you're saying? They'd have to operate out of their current,
maybe they would,
Headquarters, I'm
maybe they
sure.
would operate out of it, I don't know.
yeah, I don't
But they
know.
wouldn't, yeah, I don't, so I guess one of the things we should do is ask our emergency management
What's their fallback
what
spot?
whether they want, what
their
they want.
Where are you going?
What's their Alamo?
What they want protected of this.
That's not a good example. That one.
All right,
You talk about the temporary structures, right? So and I jotted down because of Penfield. Penfield's got a 400-foot frontage. To protect that with a temporary structure would be somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000.
that seems very expensive.
You got a lot of energy
You're
coming
missing a
across
zero
that
there.
parking lot. The closer you get to the water, the more energy you have.
The water is, it's not like you're channeling the water somewhere else. The water's gonna come straight into the structure. Whereas the temporary structures you had basically just say, divert the water. So where are you gonna divert the water to?
No, that's not necessarily. If you look at what has been done in Europe and in other places.
Oh, well, you could do the big blow-up ones. So the big, they're not geotubes, but what are the big tubes that you fill with water?
I don't want
Sand.
to belabor it. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just,
All right, so do we, I sort of think we should have them,
I think before you do anything else, you find out whether emergency services needs to use those during an extreme flood event, or do they retreat somewhere
they create and
else?
take all their equipment.
Because
They can't get in here anyway. 'cause
they aren't gonna be able to
flooded.
get in there, and they aren't gonna be able to get out of there, so they aren't gonna be able to provide any services from
Right.
there. Anyway, you really accomplish anything
Or
by protecting the building from a 100-year storm.
unless there's damage to the building. I mean, if we did $20 million worth of damage to the police station because we destroyed records and destroyed,
But at least they'll be able to get back if the,
Yeah.
flood
But
recedes.
again,
Go back.
need to know what level of protection they need.
They need, yes.
If it's just protecting the infrastructure, you could do that with deployable flood logs.
Yeah.
Or there's 100 different applications you could use if you just need to protect the structures
They've already.
and evacuate
Yeah.
all the operations.
So that's an interesting point. Like, I think, so besides identifying 15 structures, do we need to think about what we want to protect? What level?
Well, see, I think, so, I don't know, to me, the historical buildings, the Sun Tavern, that whole sort of museum area, that's a core part of who we are as a town. I would want to protect that.
I'm
Personally, but I
not
don't know.
debating that.
I know, I know.
There's a cost attached to it. So
Yes,
the
yes, there
question
is,
would be,
exactly.
taxpayer willing to
But
pay for it?
again,
The
you have
cemetery
to-
is right there too.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I was
Revolutionary
thinking,
War,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So would we
You have
would,
to, you have to determine what level of protection you need, like the sewage treatment plant absolutely needs to be,
at the 500.
absolutely needs to be protected without question, and that's why we had $7.5 million infrastructure to do that.
Right.
If you have fire department and police department that are gonna have an operations center inland, but they still want to protect their basic infrastructure, you need a different level of protection than if you're gonna keep it operational through the whole storm.
Exactly. So let's
that's kind
ask,
of
we'll ask that
important stuff to
question.
know.
And then,
I
so,
think that is, based on what I saw in the capital planning meeting, that is a shifting sand here in the last like 6 months. I saw that they were scoping something out to do some remodeling inside the police station for that eventuality, but then the new police chief came in and said, use the training room and put some phones in and we're gonna be fine. Again, still begs the question of whether they should be in there
Yeah.
or whether they have a
Yeah.
fallback position. But, so,
but we did, that question needs to be asked.
yeah, and also maybe it's a recommendation, it's two things, it's an ask, and by the way, if they say, no, we're planning on staying there, are you sure? Should you be someplace higher ground?
What level of storm?
Right, exactly.
I mean, nor'easter, stay there. You know, I mean, they didn't get hit with Sandy. So they're,
The buildings may even be strong enough that they could be dry flood proofed.
Right.
Dry flood proofed.
in basements and stuff, yeah.
The whole.
The whole building.
whole building, if they're structurally sound, you could conceivably make them dry flood proof by sealing up the openings. And if you're primarily interested in protecting the infrastructure, that might be the cheapest way to go, if they're structurally sound.
Closing up the garage at the fire department might be a little more difficult.
It's not that hard.
No, really?
No. They have applications for that,
Yeah. All right,
sorts
so,
of applications.
so the question then becomes sort of, so how are we gonna answer this at a town level? Is this something where we ask a group
I think it's a
of-
multi-layer
of-
answer
of-
to me. I think
or,
you create a list and you say, okay, if these are the things, but then you'll have to see how much it costs to save these things, and that one may change your priorities again.
Well, that was a very interesting discussion we had here about the Revolutionary War Cemetery, because some people are gonna feel like, well, we gotta protect that at all costs. Some people are gonna go, you're nuts.
That's what I'm saying.
I also think you need to look at the probability of things happening. I mean, if you,
The
if you,
distance and-
you know, we're gonna spend, I'm making it up, $20 million to save the Sun Tavern. I'm not picking, you know, just, for instance, that $20 million could do something else to save houses on a more regular basis. The Sun Tavern might get hit in 100 years. The $20 million might be better spent helping somebody every 2 years if things are happening in another part of town.
well, that's what the inundation map showed us, right? They showed us how deep the water would get. It's gonna be 9 feet here, and it's gonna be 2.5 to 3 feet here.
Right.
And that's what those maps showed us. So we actually have that data now. And we can decide what storm we want to protect to. Do we want to protect to a 25-year storm with sea level rise? We can just look on the chart. It's, you know, here's how many feet it is at each point in the town. And
If we
so-
didn't have those darn underpasses, we could move the Sun Tavern, we could move, put it up at Fairfield
Nothing
U.
happens at the Sun Tavern,
I
right?
know, exactly, I mean.
And how, I mean, I think the Sun Tavern is a historical.
I think it's great, but they ought to open it up and let you, you know, they ought to put a tavern in there.
So back
Turn that into the EMS
There you
facility.
go.
Don't tell that to
Then you'd get
Walt,
people behind
because he
saving it.
will.
raise it and
I have.
put the taps in and let's
That
go.
girl thing,
I've-
Michael Carl or somebody was.
So I've written to Mark Hoover at MetroCog, who is our GIS person, and he hasn't gotten back to me. I'm gonna have Emmeline write to him because she deals with him more regularly. And he's not getting back to me at this point. But what GIS mapping can do is it can just basically take all of the maps that we've done.
Yeah, and then
And
it'll
then,
help us figure it
and
out.
then put addresses to them, which we
Yeah.
can then take to the assessor's office and figure out which.
No, not only that, we can also see which buildings will be susceptible to damage or risk. And then which
It
ones we
won't,
want to
it
protect
won't
them.
tell us whether the building was strong
Only the
enough to be
ones.
damaged or not. It won't tell us that.
No, but like if we map it to the flood maps that they had built.
Yeah, they could, what we were talking about was trying to map it to the flood maps that they gave us.
Right.
Yeah, and that would just talk about how.
So then we will be able to figure out what's the probability of each building getting hit by
By
one storm.
how
and,
much, yeah,
like,
exactly.
how much we want to save.
Exactly, we can basically create an inventory of buildings that would be at risk for each of the different storm levels. Yes.
And then we can decide what we want to save.
No, then you can do like an expected value though of
Yeah.
that, of it's gonna be a 10%, it's gonna cost you this, 100% is gonna cost you that, and you can figure out which
But
one's the one.
But we have to
where you
tell
spend your
them
money.
what to do a concept, so we know what the cost is.
Right.
So we have to tell them, we want you to give us a concept that saves the Sun Tavern, the old town hall and the new town hall and Sherman School. What would that cost? Give us a concept that would save that to a elevation 12, I'm just making this
So
up.
do we need to then rank like 1 to 30, is that what we're
Yes.
saying? 1 to 30 on the blue map?
Well, not
we want-
necessarily the blue map.
I
The
thought it
blue
was,
map-
because that tells you where the big blues and the little blues are, and you're like,
But that
where's the area we
didn't,
want?
that
to
didn't
be-
show any coastal, remember? That was only the pluvial, and that did not show any coastal inundation. So you had the other whole maps that showed you the coastal, where it gave you a little thing on the side, it showed you how, for each storm, how
And the arrows going
far,
through it.
how far up it would go, how far the water would go, and how deep the water would go. That was a separate set of maps. So the blue dots were more, was a technique that they used as to show the rest of the town that doesn't have coastal flooding, particularly, where will you see pockets of water and, so it's kind of confusing because there's two different mapping systems and they use different modeling, if you will. So I'm not taking anything away from the blue maps. We still need to go through and pick in the blue maps, which ones need to be protected.
Maybe it's all, but coastal is the better call, or vice versa, right? I mean,
Both, right?
yeah,
We'll have
but
to do
but we
combination.
can't, I mean, I don't think we should just arbitrarily say 15 here and 15 there.
No, no,
if-
no.
If it's.
No, I'm saying we should rank order all of the areas that flood in the town in terms of what we would like to see a concept protect. And we need a 15 areas rank ordered. Or 30 if we're gonna do, we budgeted for 2 concepts for 15 areas, so technically we have 30 concepts that they can do. But that means that
Can we
each,
do it in stages? Can we choose 15 first and see what's the cost and then do something? Or like,
We
should we
could- we
give the
could
whole 30
probably-
first and then?
we could probably
and
ask them to
then
do that,
figure it out.
if that makes sense, yeah. I mean, certain things are gonna be harder to protect than others.
Yeah.
And more costly. Like, this ain't gonna be cheap.
Yeah.
But I just thinking off the top of my head, we said, look, here's Fairfield. In the next 100 years, estimate for all the different areas that are blue or that are coastal, whatever, what's the probability in 100 years? What are we gonna get hit with? How often? How wide? What's that gonna do? Is that something that can be done?
That's what they did.
Been
They did
done.
that.
Yeah.
That's what those maps were.
Yeah, so the arrow, the moving maps was the coastal one. And in fact, it was not
It's not
only.
like number of times or anything like that.
No, but what they had was
Some
different,
areas.
they had like 10, 20, 40, 100, or whatever the increments were, I can't remember off the top of my head. But they did, and you could see as you got from 20 to 40 year, you saw it go further into town and more. It also showed kind of when it was egressing, right? It was going back out and it cut off the peninsula there, right, on the way out. So that was on the coastal one by race, and then inland, it had, the blue was where you were gonna see through rainfall or through cresting rivers, the most vulnerable spots, but they didn't pick out, to your point, when we were talking to them, they didn't pick out stuff that was ponds and things like that. So we had to
So
kind
some of those are ponds.
yeah, some of those are ponds. We had to exclude those and be like, okay, that's a pond. It's fine if that gets a little high, mostly. But yeah, so there's some work to be done with the modeling they have done already.
I
Yeah.
guess what I didn't see is the frequency, right? It doesn't show you how many times it's happening.
No, it will show like, say, once in 10 years. That's the probability that you're looking at.
And that's
Right.
data we can get from Circa.
That's
and
So
we can ask-
you're looking for forecasting to say how many times
Well,
we
I'm just
think
saying,
it's
so
going to
10, I
happen.
mean, 10 times here might be a better call than one time
Well,
here.
like the
That's what I'm
20
getting
So like the
at.
25-year storm today, with sea level rise and more intense storms, which is what they're projecting, is going to be a 5-year storm in 2050. That's the kind of stuff Circa is telling us. So a 10-year storm, for example, one that's supposed to come every 10 years, which is actually already coming more than every 10 years, but a 10-year storm, again, with sea level rise and with the more intense storms, is going to come every 2.5 years, roughly. So it's going to be the worst storm. That's why we had them do so many different kinds of storms, because that 25-year storm may sound like, oh, if it's only going to come up once every 25 years, why are we bothering to spend money on it? Well, if it's going to come every 5 years, that's a big deal. Does that help? Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Now, if I remember, is this, put to bed, we're good for that? I had a question about the blue.
Blue spots, yes.
Yeah, blue spots. Is that's done from modeling, correct?
It is a quasi-model that basically uses LiDAR, I believe, to see where the low-lying areas are that would fill up
That are gonna
with
flood,
an intense
right?
rain, yes.
Would we be able to, is that public information now? Because if it is, then you could also ask people, are there other places that have not been reached by this modeling, which in fact flood?
Did flood. Actually, those maps are all now public.
Okay.
I think we can share those, and they're all on the flood and erosion Google Drive. So if
Okay.
you wanted to take those blue spot maps out to your riverine core,
Association.
that is a great idea.
Or we asked the first selectwoman to put it into her email, please look at this. Do you have other places, please contact her.
Well, we would probably then want to put that on a town. I did a Google Drive for just us for all of those maps. So if we were going to do that, we would want to put it on a town site so that people
Right.
can access it.
Put it in the libraries, let people go in
I mean,
old-fashioned way.
we-
Seriously.
Well, actually, it's
Initial it, give me your cell phone number.
it's funny, some people are very comfortable doing it all electronically. Other people really want to see
Or
a
both,
big
right?
map.
There's
I want to see a big map.
Emmeline gonna put some of it on the,
Emmeline has it on the planning and zoning website.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
I
right.
believe.
That's what she said, yeah.
And Bill has it all, he printed out a big one. So we could just have people go into the engineering department and look at that
Yeah,
and
people
circle
like to
it.
do that. There's something that's simple that they would do, right?
Well, it's just a big map.
Yeah.
He just printed out a big map,
Give them a blue marker.
and we could just have people come and add to it. I don't think that's a problem with that if we wanted to. And if you think people would be more comfortable looking at a big blue map, because the way they did the blue spot is they also split it into, I want to say, 12 different
Yeah.
maps. So it's a little harder to navigate.
Yeah, then they could just actually call in or write in and say, you missed such and such a street, such and such a place. They don't have to physically put in something.
Yeah, that's
Put
fine.
it in the polling places in November. Put it right when people are waiting.
Actually,
It's not a bad idea.
not a bad
district.
idea.
people will
vote
think
it
they're
out.
voting on it, guys, do not do that.
Yeah, no, I just did
It's gonna be
I
like,
can hear
wait,
the,
we can write vote on this.
Is this on the ballot?
You'll have to put some red color also then to be.
Exactly.
Right, so-
that's true.
Are you proposing that we vote on?
Well, what I was proposing we do is we start to create our list of our rank order of 30, and we've gotten to 2 now so far.
So how would we do that? See, that's why I was thinking, like, is it better to have that GIS mapping on on the concepts that they have created to see what exactly is
Well,
getting.
that GIS mapping is only gonna be for the coastal,
Okay.
I think. I mean,
But like for non-coastal, anyway, it's just the blue spots that are.
I mean, I guess we could GIS map the blue spots.
But like for us, what I'm saying is, for rest of it, yeah, we should get the GIS mapping
We,
for us.
we could do the GIS
Yeah.
mapping for the blue spots
That's-
too, yeah. I think, I mean, there should be a way to do that.
Because I don't know how, that was going to be my question, how do we even create a list of like, more than 5, my brain will run out to what.
So here's, so I send around,
house.
I send around another thing, that I printed out about 7 of them, so there's 2 pages to them. This is what they sent us, there's a criteria page on the back, and then there's a list of 15 that they have, looked at. Do you wanna share with me? Here's the criteria. So they basically gave us a criteria page, and this was discussed in that meeting as well. So the criteria that they are saying, and this is based upon the blue spot analysis. They said, we want to select areas that are big enough to be worth protecting, so 1,000 square feet or greater. Some of the blue spots are actually already wetlands, so we want to take those out possibly, or we.
So that's what we were just talking about.
Or we
right?
want to have buffers maybe around those and allow additional capacity to collect water because they're already in an area where we could actually make them more detention. They wanted to not do FEMA flood zones, VE zones, because it's not an effective, they're saying it's not effective from a blue spot standpoint to protect them due to the fact that they're gonna get inundated with coastal flooding. So they're saying from a blue spot standpoint, they wanted to focus on X zones, which are sort of above,
Outside of the 500-year flood.
yeah. They want us to, they said part of the criteria is if we know that there's a historical flooding area from either field investigation or from existing studies, that would be an area that we would then prioritize. They said if there's new flooding areas based upon input from people like, our residents or from our Tim Bishop or other people, they said we would want to protect critical infrastructure and evacuation routes. And I don't know what areas flagged for study means, that doesn't,
Say that again?
areas flagged for study was their last criteria, which I'm not sure what that means. But that was the criteria that they used to develop this list. So they put a list of what we want, that we would want to protect. They've got a lot of schools on here. And they also prioritize town-owned property, which we don't necessarily have to prioritize, but that was part of the prioritization that they used.
Depending on what it is.
So they pretty much, the first several ones here are town-owned property. Fairfield Woods, I assume that's the library, the river,
Or the middle school.
or the middle school, yeah. The Riverfield Elementary School, the Dwight Elementary School, I assume they mean Owen Fish Park here. Lake Mohegan, and that I'm assuming that what they think there is they could probably look at that as additional detention, possibly. The downtown train station, City Hall, which I assume they mean Independence Hall, and the Town Hall. I'm not sure what they mean by Grassmere Brook. Ludlow High School, Ward High School, Osborne Elementary School, Holland Hill Elementary School. Tungus Hill is already a detention basin, so I think that's what they were talking about from a detention basin standpoint. Mill Hill Elementary School, and I'm not sure what they mean by Black Rock, unless they mean the whole Turnpike area. So this is their recommended list. They're basically saying downtown City Hall, train station, and a lot of the schools.
But they did not include fire and police.
They didn't, probably because that, they would have considered that within the coastal zone. But they include town hall.
I was gonna say.
Those schools, I'm thinking of schools, and they're either on a hill or on a slope. They're not down in some
I know,
valley that's
I don't
going
see
to
any of them
flood.
needing
I agree.
protection.
Yeah.
But are they on blue spot? Like is Ludlow high on blue spot?
I don't think so. I don't remember it
It
being
does
I
flagged.
need to see how they would.
I don't remember it being flagged on
Woods on
the
the
map.
top of the hill.
And that's why I actually asked them to put all the town infrastructure
Yeah, we
overlaid
have to
onto
have
the
that.
blue spot,
We have to
because
have that.
otherwise it's just a bunch of blue spots on a map, and unless you
I
know
mean,
where all the
this is
roads
like-
are.
This is like, oh, this is where your big investment is, so you should protect this. It seems that they're making that list irrespective of where the blue spots are.
I know, I agree with you. This list doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
That's why I guess
That's
why
what I'm
we're
saying, we need
involved.
that GIS mapping to blue spot.
Yeah, I think we need, well, I think we actually need to
There's
put
not
on the
enough
town
meeting
critical
with these
infrastructure
people.
on the blue spot map.
Yeah.
I don't think we
There's
can do
not enough
anything.
Not
without
enough
seeing
meaning,
that.
there's no meeting of the mind between your group and this consultant group.
We have to get this guy's name and get him involved. Member of public.
Yes, don't disagree.
I'm sorry for putting you, excuse me.
I love it when you butt.
Seat at the table.
Have a seat.
Okay,
I've been ostracized for 1 year,
so,
And what date is that up?
11/24.
all right, so let's add another item here. We said we were gonna add, going back to our timeline. So we had added already town to provide feedback on blue spot flooding. And what that would meant to be was what new blue spots should be on there that weren't on there. I think the second thing we should do is town should supply feedback on overlay critical infrastructure and evacuation routes.
Yeah.
And on top of the blue spot maps.
Can't read it, so.
It's interesting when you put Fish Park on here.
Where is Fish Park?
Oh, and Fish Park
Fish
is
Park.
across from my house now, so, yeah, in, 50, Route 59.
Oh, okay, I see.
You know where the Goddard School is now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you make a left at the Goddard School, when you're going down the hill, it's up on the left-hand side.
Okay.
It's a lovely park.
All right, so what I'm proposing we do then is, I'm gonna take this timeline, shift everything out a couple weeks at least, ask for either Bill Hurley or the consultant or Anthony or somebody in town to overlay critical infrastructure on top of the blue spot maps, so that we have that, to get feedback from, I say Tim Bishop / Conservation, as well as emergency management on the blue spot maps and on the critical infrastructure overlays, just so they have, confirmed where would the command center be, for example. Just so we know if they're planning on staying in the police station or if they've got a place that they anticipate sort of managing from.
Right.
At that point, we can then come, take a look at the blue spot maps, take a look at the coastal maps, and determine at least our list of what we would ask them to look at.
Include schools, that's what we're here for. We're here to give them our feedback based on.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm
This,
fine with that.
so I'm
We're
not,
thinking dollars and cents, right? We're thinking a little bit differently,
well, I think they're,
right?
I'm trying to think even of those,
How many would even be impacted? Why would you even put that on the list? I get that, yeah. Yeah, Osborne Hill School in there, like, if it's gonna get up that hill,
I was gonna say, really?
I mean, really?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think they get any water.
That's the big one, get the arc out and, 2x2, because if it hits Osborne Hill School, we got a real problem.
all
I
right.
mean, Mill River runs behind it, okay. maybe.
So I think, so our feedback to their proposed list is, we don't believe we can comment on this until we see the critical infrastructure and evacuation routes and historical districts overlaid on the blue spot maps. And at that point, and frankly, I'd like to see these overlaid on it, because they're saying that these are all need to be protected. I'd like to make sure that these are on there, so
Right.
we can understand, do these correlate with really deep blue spots? Maybe I'm wrong, maybe we're all wrong, maybe there's flooding potential.
I'll have to relook at the blue
Again, not, just visualizing the topography, it's like,
Well, it makes me wonder.
I'm noticing like 8 that I can't understand why we bother looking at them for flooding.
Yeah, I don't either.
Right, that's why.
It makes no sense.
yeah, it's like,
I
why
think they were
inspection?
looking at square footage times
Yeah.
replacement costs, and that's how they came up with it.
But it makes no sense if it's not gonna flood, what are we talking about? This is a flood prevention and mitigation project.
So it's not in my head, I'm looking at.
So then I keep coming back to, do they know what they're trying to do here?
Well, I am a little confused.
Are they
as
just
well.
throwing stuff out because we're too dumb to know that they're spoofing us?
No, I mean, they obviously have some thinking behind this, so we owe them a chance to explain why they have chosen to put these things onto this list. Right?
Sure.
Well, they gave you that criteria, right? That's their
Well,
criteria.
the
for that list,
criteria
right?
is, it's like the size of the schools. 1,000 square feet, anything 1,000 square feet goes on the list.
Well, no, because
My house is not on it, no.
I'm not impressed, I gotta tell you.
Well, so number 2 is limits of fluvial flooding, 10 years. So they must have said that they think that there's gonna be some flooding. That's one of the criteria that they picked.
It must be rivery, right?
I mean, I don't know that
The stream
these
that
are-
runs behind Osborne Hill, the stream,
But is it to the point where it could flood?
for it to get from the stream behind Osborne Hill even to the, past the ball field would be miraculous. It would go the other way, down the hill towards Brookside, it would never come uphill.
I often puff up that hill going to Ward, and there's no water going up that hill.
Is there, no, but is there any water, are there any rivers or streams around it?
That I can think of.
I can't think of anything around it.
The woods, this,
Yeah, Ward's up on a hill.
Right, but is there a river?
And
I can think of.
Yeah,
And
down on the golf course,
Yeah.
about 40 feet lower.
Behind the track and football field there, is that, no, those are homes, those are homes.
Yeah, and it goes up from there.
That's where we go to park when the storm's coming.
Yes, no, that's right, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's right.
All right, so I think our feedback to them is the firm does not understand
Yeah, that's
the criteria you've
That's just
chosen to
whatever,
select
what's
these.
coming, I go park at Ludlow.
How much do these people get paid?
Link a watershed to each of the 15 items. The
So I
question
think
is whether the
we're asking for two
watershed
things.
really
Blue
would have an
spots,
impact.
Right.
mapping to entry.
Only they can
escape
explain the
routes,
thinking,
critical
I guess.
infrastructure down
Yeah,
infrastructure.
let them tell us. That's a good point,
Yeah,
John.
how each of these watersheds affect.
Yeah. And then the second thing we said was on the coastal side, we want to understand the emergency, police and fire, critical structures, what their operating model is.
Well, that's from fire, we need that from our
coastal.
town, we need that from our,
It's-
that's not a.
It's
all
possible
right, so-
they just use these names to identify watersheds that they're investigating, but they gotta make that a whole lot clearer.
Well, we told them to look at Sasko Creek and come back and say, what would
Excuse me.
flood in the Sasko Creek watershed?
Is this list of 15 that they came up with, is that their initial foray into, we'll give you two strategies for these locations?
That's my understanding. Let me see if I can pull up some of that.
Focus area. Yeah, I'm with Chuck, you know what, let them tell us how they came up
Yeah,
with it.
explain it to us.
I mean, I don't think,
Or maybe the town people
I
understand.
mean, this
All
was.
right, here is the email. Hi all, we have completed the nature-based screening for areas to focus on flood mitigation based upon the criteria reviewed at the last meeting, and that was the criteria that we all read out. When you right-click on the KMZ file, it will open in Google Earth for you to see the locations. Please use the attached Excel spreadsheet to rank high, medium, and low priority and add any notes or other priority areas. So I can send you their, the KMZ file. I don't know, I didn't send that. I could send that out to you all later, but just looking at this, most of these don't make sense.
Yeah, and they didn't apply the criteria to to each one. Like, if they put which one they thought applied to this, like critical infrastructure to the school, but they didn't, there's no way to tell how they, why they put them on the list. So we get.
But if we had to come up with our own criteria, what would it be?
I think,
Like, we are challenging them, we say, okay, we don't agree with this thing, they'll come up with something else.
well, I don't
we
think,
have a
I don't think the
framework in our
criteria
mind.
is wrong.
Understand
They're
this
getting paid
first.
a lot of money to do this.
It's not that the criteria is necessarily wrong. What the criteria is basically town-owned properties that are large enough to
Okay.
sustain damage and that are gonna
So
flood.
there's a
The problem is that are
That are gonna flood is not,
is missing.
So we agree with the criteria that they have
Possibly,
given,
yeah.
We're
but not the mapping.
looking for flood-prone areas of the town, not flood-prone damage, town infrastructure.
Well,
So-
Emmeline did sort of steer them towards town infrastructure as opposed to areas of the town, meaning, residential. That may not be right. We might want to keep it as areas that are gonna flood, no matter whether they're town or
Well, then why
not.
are we doing any coastal? The town has almost no infrastructure in the coastal areas, so why are they even looking at it?
Well, they have the whole downtown, the whole historical
Yeah.
is in the coastal.
I'm being a little facetious.
But there are more residents there. That's true.
So I think, and the reason she steered them there is that it's a lot easier to do projects in town-owned infrastructure. It's
Right.
very hard to get a bunch of residents to all agree to do something that is multi-resident, that spans multiple residences, because all you have to do is have one person say, no, I don't want it, and it blows the whole thing up.
Who approves these in the end? Let's say we got, there's one that's town-owned property and one that's not a town-owned property, and how do they get approved? Who approves yes to this, no to this?
So the whole premise of this is we're gonna develop these lists of areas that we can protect against, have a cost to each, basically a feasibility of flooding, a risk of flooding criteria to each. And so we'll look at the risk plus cost ratio, cost benefit analysis, basically, of each of these things. We then have a recommendation to the town, we as collectively as FERB and Emmeline and Bill, that says, all these add up to, I'm gonna just say, pick 50 million. We've rank ordered them, and we've rank ordered them highest risk and most critical benefit and likely to be protected. And here are the top five. It's our recommendation you put these five on the capital plan and that they're worth doing. If we have more money and we can find it, here are the next five, and here are the last five. So we will be recommending, as part of, the master plan will recommend to the town. Now, Board of Finance.
So who's the one that's approving it? Finance is approving it, or
Board of Selectmen, RTM.
or-
It
Gotta go
goes
around the horn.
Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM. We start with Board
It's in the
of.
capital plan, yeah. Yeah, you gotta go around.
It starts
and-
with Board of Selectmen.
Shake it around.
It starts with us making a recommendation. Then Board of Selectmen have to approve it, then it goes to Board of Finance. They have to approve it, because that's dollars. And then RTM has to approve it, because they're the ultimate deciders. So that's the process. And we don't know what'll be on there until we do the work.
Is there any budget earmarked for this at all, or it's just, this is just kind of ground up, this is what we think we need, and we're asking for it?
We got the budget to do the RFP, right?
We have the budget to do the plan. Some of the projects are already funded in the capital plan, like a lot of the Rooster River stuff is already funded. Wastewater treatments are obviously already been done. A lot of the tide gate work has already been done. I mean, we may suggest that we put in more tide gates and add tide gate infrastructure as a way to protect some of the coast. I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. But those are all things that hopefully the consultant is gonna come up and recommend to us. I'm a little nervous saying this, that.
It's gonna have to be a big rebound.
That I'm not sure we have clearly communicated, or at least maybe I'm not understanding this.
The other side is, it's easy to put this together. That's a 15-minute,
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me.
that's what I mean.
Half the things on this, I don't know why they're on here.
I also don't know why.
All I'm saying is, we may have, I think we've communicated to them very well. I think somebody said, we gotta hand them something, and here it is.
Well,
I mean,
I don't understand why they're giving areas to the nearest half a square foot and 2 million square feet. All you gotta do is divide it by and give acres would be a much more manageable number.
square feet versus.
Square
Well, I know
acre.
it's
square-
2.8
wondered how
square
many-
feet is a tenth of an acre. That's what it said.
I always wondered how many million square feet Fish Park was. Now I know.
Yeah,
how much, oh, so is
4
that,
million.
But we don't,
but they've got these to the hundredth of a square foot. So roughly, they've got these narrowed down to the square inch, basically.
so I think we just need to get a little more guidance from them on why they're recommending these and what this means.
So-
For example, it would be a whole lot more sense for me, Fairfield Woods, if instead of 2,642,975.50 square feet, if they said 620 acres, it makes it a whole lot easier for me to.
Well, why don't we ask for them to put it in acres? Well, I don't even want them to put it in acres, because until they explain what they've done.
They're gonna charge you for it.
Yeah, they'll charge us for it, and I still don't
What does
understand.
BlackRock mean?
Do we get rebates because they gave us, I mean, you know, this is, you had to hand in your homework, so you put in some garage.
That's the problem. We don't know that. We could beat this to death. Let's just ask them what the.
We'll ask them why they, you know, what I wrote down is, FERB does not understand the criteria you've chosen to prioritize these, and like to understand the flooding potential of each, as many of these do not feel like they are in a flood.
But I think that's what I'm saying, like, I think we understand the criteria, but we don't understand how you have selected.
How they applied it.
Based on this criteria. I think that's what we are saying.
You got
I
places.
thought we agreed with the
flooding
criteria.
potential.
Yeah, I thought we agreed with the criteria as
Well,
such.
the way I read that, how do you read limits of fluvial flooding, 10-year of extent? Number 2 on the criteria. How do you all read that?
You're wasting your time
Shorthand.
trying to see what's in their head when they wrote this.
So let's ask it, we've asked the question.
Thank you for this. Now please explain.
So let me ask one question. Of the ones that are on here, are there any that you think we should look at? I would put City Hall on there, which I assume they mean downtown.
Right.
So that's the only one I would put on that's high.
Well, downtown train station, obviously.
Should we list our criteria? Have we done that?
I thought we were gonna wait till we had proper maps to kind
Yeah.
of pull that off of.
Yeah.
They
Or
were,
even just what's like, just conceptually, what would we want to protect? You know, what,
Well, I think
It could-
we said law enforcement and emergency services, albeit either we waterproof it or they confirm that they have a high ground, you know, place to operate from.
We want to protect the downtown historical area.
Downtown historical is a consideration. Part of the town may vote for it, part of the town might not. Right? What else did we talk about?
I think after a storm or during a storm, I mean, the water treatment, yeah, that makes sense, it's already
Yeah,
done.
I
I
think
don't
we-
know if electric, if there's anything electric, I don't know how you do that, but electric is something you'd want to protect because that's gonna, right?
I would protect evacuation routes. I don't think our evacuation routes are elevated, so they're not really evacuation routes. They're functional evacuation routes. They're roads that have been designated as an
Suggestions.
evacuation.
Yeah, they're suggested
They are
parking lots.
get out early routes.
That's about it.
But they're not an evacuation route during a storm. Now, maybe we have enough notice of a storm that we don't need to raise roads. I mean, I'd like to understand those trade-offs. I mean, if a hurricane comes, we know it's coming, and the town tells you 96 hours before it comes, this is something we want you all to evacuate. They then come again and say 48 hours, you need to evacuate. They come 24 hours, say you need to evacuate. And then they drive around 12 hours before and say, why aren't you evacuated yet? And they drop off little leaflets at your house saying you need to be evacuating. So if we haven't done it by then, maybe we don't need to raise. I mean, what do people think about? Do we need raised evacuation routes?
I mean, you could look at places that this happens all the time, and I don't think they do. South Carolina probably doesn't. Coastal areas, they
Well,
probably.
Norwalk is
say,
raising one of
"Get
their
the hell outta
roads, which is an evacuation route. I know Branford is also raising a road that I think is tied into an area that it floods.
I think Norwalk's done that in conjunction with low-income housing development down on Water Street there.
For people to get out.
They're raising that road, I think.
Yeah.
I think Branford and or Guilford.
That area is
They have
low.
Route 136, is it?
Elevated roads are nice in that they also help residents deal with the nuisance flooding.
Well, that's the other thing, is nuisance flooding.
You know, but you gotta be very careful that you don't go and entrap water and make a problem worse in the local area.
Well, luckily, raising our roads means it'll actually channel into marshes,
Yeah.
which actually can then be channeled back out again through your tide gate systems and stuff. So it's not a bad idea to do that. I mean, and that's the other question. What do we think about nuisance flooding? Do we want to have nuisance flooding be dealt with as one of the things we ask them to look at? It's gonna, I think, keep our property values higher.
Yes.
I think we should do that because that's going to happen more often than anything else in my
They did
opinion.
that 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
And it made a vast improvement. It's not perfect. But it made the area a whole lot more livable.
So I told you we went and looked at houses this weekend. So we drove down, we were on a Barrier Island, Long Beach Island off of New Jersey. And we saw one house in one township and another house in another township. And when we were talking to the realtor, she had moved from the second one back up into the first one because her town had made a priority. We have to think about the word protection here of putting pump stations in. So they had this massive storm down there, right? Like, it just sat there, and it was all mostly nuisance coming up out of the bayside, not rainfall, some rainfall, and certainly not coming over the dunes, but it wiped all the dunes out. So they can do beach nourishment, and they do it every year because that's what drives their economy,
allowed
right?
to.
They're allowed to, and it drives their economy. But the Realtor said, between these two homes, I know you want to be down in this area because the kids do all the activities and you can walk to coffee shop and stuff like that. Realize that they have not bought in or have gotten their act together around pump stations. And the first house I took you to has, and even if there is water, okay, it is gone in 24 hours. It is pumped out. It's pumped back out into the bay. It's pumped, like this. So protection may not just be berms.
Yeah.
It may also be other things
If
that.
you do berms, you do need pumps.
Yeah, yeah, right, you're trapping it, right? But it was interesting that you're talking about property values, and here's a Realtor telling me, aside from what you see on Zillow about flood risk, she was saying, listen, this town is bought in, and they've been making multi-year investments into this, so that we know we're gonna get hit, we're a barrier island. By the way, you're talking about elevated roads, the island sits like this, the ocean comes in here, and the island's on a tilt. And like this, right? So Surf City up here is high and on the beach side. So people park their cars on the beach side behind the dune because that's the safest spot. That's park and places like that. Because if down low, it comes in from the bay. It comes in, when we were there this summer, it came up through the grates and up through the downspout that was in the lagoon. It was entering into the lagoon, got so high, it came through the rain spout and up into the yard and flooded the yard through the rain spout coming up. So what they said was, this town has not bought into pumping and, you can see the water like that day we were down at the beach in the
catch
storm, in
basins.
the catch basins. The other town has started to build pump systems to get the stuff out, keep those catch basins clean. They got a program. So protection may not just be berming and
We
things like
have,
that.
we have a pump station concept right now. It's
Right, and that's my
$37
point.
million.
Right. So using the natural.
37 million, and that includes the pump station itself, plus you have to do the pipe drainage to be able to make it work. So it's like 20 and 17 or something.
But the tie gates is a great idea. You're getting that stuff back into the marshes, the natural collection points until it can recede, pump stations, things like this. I mean, again, there's a difference between kind of adaptation and mitigation.
Well, I think that should be on our list. They should look at an option to reduce and mitigate future nuisance flooding in the beach area. That should be one of our 15. And whatever that looks like, if that's raised roads and a combination of
Yeah, whatever it is.
stations and.
I mean, and really, the riverine and the rain events are nuisance flooding, right? Of
course they are.
There
Yeah.
and so on. But they're also do you want to live in a place that's going to get, at whatever the time frame you want to put to it, 5 years or whatever, your chances are 30% that you're going to get a flood. So it does, I mean, that's all nuisance flooding.
Yeah,
Sure.
it is.
Listen, I live in Osborne Hill, the end of my block, when we had that rainstorm, when the BMWs were rolling down North Street in Bridgeport, I had 2 feet of water at the end of my street.
You did.
We did, at Osborne Hill. And guess
Is that a
what?
blue spot on the map?
I didn't even look yet.
You should look.
I was looking, I was trying to, but he was moving around so fast. But I will tell you, it filled up 2 feet. My son had to drive through it in his Jeep and come home, and it did reach my house. My house is up on a hill on that street. It came
You
in
got the
through-
water from that stream?
I could see, I think it probably came through Buckus Pond and through our neighborhood, and it ran down towards Reed Street. It was almost 2 feet deep, running by.
Osborne Hill, wow.
A lot of these are back up because the drainage does not.
We only have one storm drain at the end of the street, right? You have Buckus Pond. What's that?
And that's old.
It's been there forever, right? Yeah, yeah, half those neighbors are pumping their sump pumps into it, right? Or near it.
All right, I'm gonna bring us back. Obviously, we need to go back to them and understand this more, so I will send that message back to them. I'd like us to go back to the timeline and just talk,
If you send that, I'll get it.
and this will be our last thing we do, I think, unless you have an update on the do nothing valuations.
No, I think we're
be the
waiting
last-
for that GIS data.
This is the last thing we'll do before we close for the night. I just want to walk through, as a group, how we would run the meetings, just so we can get a sense, does this make sense? So I don't know if you can see, I guess this is really light, I should have had it a little bit darker. The concept development in part C. So once they are ready to start the concept development, which is November, which we'll push that back now, they had given themselves from November, early November to early January. So they'd given themselves, what, November, December?
Well, January, almost 3/4 of January?
No,
First week,
early
first week.
January, yeah. So really, they'd given themselves
Half.
they'd given themselves a little over 2 months to do. So I put in something called a mid-concept review in sort of early December. So halfway into their process, they'd come back and sort of share where they are. Do you think that, do we want to waste one of our meetings for that? It seems to be,
Yes.
yes.
You
I
can't,
think
you,
without them in the
discussion.
room, where
you
do
can't,
we
This
go?
discussion, yes.
And
Maybe we
Chuck,
need
you
earlier
can't let them
than
go
that.
halfway through and not have any feedback.
Yeah.
I think that is, I think that would be,
Well, we will have agreed the
They've
list.
proven
Yeah.
we need feedback.
Yeah. Well, we will have agreed the list up front. Remember, let's go back to Part B. We will have provided our recommended list of the 15 concepts for them to do, and they will have provided theirs. So we will have actually agreed a final list at that point. So at least we will have said, here are the things we want. We want you to look at nuisance flooding. We want you to look at protecting the historical center. We want you to look at these blue spots. We want you to look at whatever. So I don't think they're going to come back with different areas than what we said, but we just may not like how they're protecting those.
So Becky, who's working on that?
Working on
Who
what?
provide this list to them? Who's creating that list?
Well, we need to.
We need to.
But I
okay.
think what we agreed is we need to actually see the critical infrastructure and evacuation routes and
Yeah, so
and
we-
review of the blue
we
spots.
want those
Oh,
mappings.
we
Right.
need the maps done.
And
We're gonna create our list.
Mapping for coastal.
Is this too far along to have a mid-concept review?
Maybe we need to push that earlier then, yeah.
Yeah,
Why don't I push that 2 weeks earlier?
in their product so far.
So I'll push that a little bit earlier. And then I was actually thinking that we want to get the regulators involved before the end of concept development, so that if the regulators kill some of the ideas,
Yeah.
we know that. So I had regulators coming in sort of right after our mid-concept review.
that makes sense.
Then I had sort of final concepts over in that sort of January time period, and I thought we would basically get the Board of Selectmen involved at that point. So when we have final concepts, we see them, and we could actually do them in a meeting with the Board of Selectmen and all of us together, so that we don't waste a meeting. We do our meeting with them.
What do they ask in that meeting with the Board of Selectmen? Is it just informational, or are we asking for something?
I think it's informational, because what I believe we will have at that time is sketches, concept sketches of the areas we're gonna protect. See, what we won't have done is we won't have the Board of Selectmen buying into the areas we're looking at. So if the Board of Selectmen say, I love these 10 that you've done, but I wouldn't have done those 5, what if you did these 5? Then we're gonna go over budget and have to do 5 others that weren't budgeted for. So we may wanna bring the Board of Selectmen in earlier. Maybe they come to the mid-concept review.
But how are they different than the Board of Finance or the RTM? When each of those have the same potential problems with that?
I don't think you want to get them involved till you have something more involved. Definite.
I mean, the
My
reality.
thought is, I guess my thought is like if we have planned for 30 places that, as per the contract, I can't imagine they'll go outside those 30 places.
Well, 30,
is a lot.
what we said is 15 places, 2 different approaches to those.
Okay.
So there could be an approach that says, one way to protect Penfield is to put a dune in front. One way,
Right.
the other way is to put
Okay.
a raised road.
So
and
only
a
15
thing.
is the limit, then
So we could probably change that and say, you don't need 2 concepts for everything. These ones, you only need 1 concept for. So
But
we
I think
probably have some
why
flex.
don't,
but-
once we create the list, we will know how many items we have. If we have 20, 30, then maybe, yeah, we should think about what to do. If we
Yeah.
have less than 15, we have no problem.
Then we have no problem at all, exactly.
So
I don't
if
think
the
the
Board
board-
of Selectmen is basically informational, Board of Finance, is this a actual up and down financially, and then same with the RTM? I mean, are these, because the residents are, according to this right now, are coming in after the Board of Select people.
Yeah, and I sort of thought that the Board of Selectmen wanted to review it before the residents had a chance to weigh in. But I could be wrong on that. but I had a bunch of residents in February, right after we sort of showed the initial ones to the Board of Selectmen, we then do a series of resident meetings where we give a chance for the public to weigh in on these.
These are meetings with the consultants, right? But we can have meetings without the consultants, can't we?
Some of the resident ones are without the consultants because we haven't paid for those.
But even the Board of Selectmen and whatever, I mean, can we have multiple meetings with them?
We could have the Board of Selectmen be at the mid-concept review and do two. The question is, who do we want to present to the Board of Selectmen? Do you want us to present, or do you want the consultants to present?
What about Bill?
Bill-
Project manager.
Bill could present.
Let
Yeah.
Bill present it. Working for the first selectman.
Yeah.
Probably give an update on his I mean, I would imagine that she has a series of reviews with him throughout the project that she's,
I don't know, because I asked
I've not
her.
spoken to her.
So I met with her, and I said, and I met with her specifically on this project, and I said, I want to make sure that Bill was very involved with this, and, Bill's no longer with us, so I just want to make sure that you're aware of what we're doing, and I want to get your feedback on how involved you want to be in this project. Do you want to attend project team meetings? Do you want to get, do you want me to fill you in, and then we'll meet with the Board of Selectmen? She says, no. Schedule meetings with the full Board of Selectmen. I don't need to see things earlier. You don't need to keep me in the loop earlier. I'm fine on you doing a full Board of Selectmen updates. So I'm happy with that, but I'm sort of thinking now that we're talking, we should bring the Board of Selectmen in at the mid-concept review,
I think so.
probably. Or at least have a meeting after that with Bill, after the mid-concept review, someone presenting to the Board of Selectmen.
we should.
Does that make sense?
Bill Hurley.
Bill Hurley, yeah.
And we should know if Bill Hurley's, meeting with Christine and giving her updates, like, is this a project that she's getting an update during her staff meetings on,
She might, I mean, I don't know. We can ask Bill. So then with the final concepts, we would do, again, another Board of Selectmen meeting, saying, okay, here are the final ones. You saw an early concept, here are these. Get all the residents, making sure we're in. Then I had another regulator meeting before the Board of Finance, but I'm not even sure if we need two regulator meetings. Because if the regulators have already given us feedback on the concepts, what sorts of things they'd approve and what they wouldn't, I don't even know if we need a second one.
I think once you have the concept drawings, you go sit down with them for a few hours and just
That's what I
kick
was
them
thinking.
around and get their knee-jerk reactions, and then just put that into the schmegulator as you go forward.
Well, that's why I put them 3/4 of the way into the concept, so that we basically would have the concept.
pretty
drawings
semi-solid list.
Semi-solid enough to get their feedback. And if they say absolutely not, or
Right.
you can do that, but only if you do blah, 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 then they change the concepts and evolve them to a point where the regulators would agree to them. So that was the way I'd originally scoped it. So I'm not even sure we need a second one.
Maybe that's yet to be known.
So why don't we put that as a question mark?
We can make that call when we get there.
You'll see what happens at the first meeting.
Yep.
And then we've got Board of Finance and RTM. And at that point, we have the full, the last resident meeting I had is when we'll have all the visualization. They're planning on doing sort of big dog and pony show visualization thing where they're gonna have these interactive, the consultants, these interactive maps and stuff like that. I mean, if you look at this, they've got, where do they have it here? Oh, ARC GIS story maps and online GIS viewers. I mean, so these are all things that allow residents to go in and see their own property, see what this will look like. They'll see the flooding maps, they'll see all that sort of stuff in a way that's hopefully easy and simple for them to understand. We also have the 2100 sort of plan, and then we have, frankly, the last part of this is the financial strategies and funding strategies, and also a recommendation on stormwater authority, which I think I'd like to get their recommendation on whether we should. Does everyone know what a stormwater authority is? No.
No.
Okay, so a stormwater authority is a concept that a couple towns, I believe New London has already done it,
Yeah, they
and
do.
where you basically go in and create an organizational body that in essence taxes everyone in town based upon their impervious surface. And you can do it a couple different ways. I think you can do it on square footage. There's a couple different ways you can approach the impervious surface, but the concept is every town needs to improve their stormwater infrastructure. The pipes are usually too small. We've got a big problem in our town that we're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to get our stormwater up. This is a way to pay for that. And you pay for it by having a tax on individuals, rather than just taking it out of our tax base. You actually pay for your stormwater impact. So if you have a lot of impervious surfaces where your stormwater can't effectively run off, you would pay a slightly higher tax than the person who has an area that has, less impervious surfaces where the stormwater can absorb into the water and not go into the stormwater system and overwhelm it. So it basically taxes you according to your contribution to more stormwater flooding. Does that make sense? And if there's a better way to say it.
More or less, and then you get into all the legal things of commercial buildings that have a massive underground storage for stormwater treatment and mitigation.
They get
How do you
treated
treat them? And then if they did that, the equitable thing to do is they pay a lower rate than somebody with their,
They should, yeah.
1,500 square foot house. And the person with a 1,500 square foot house says, why am I paying twice as much rate as, the $20 million industrial complex? It gets real nasty
Yeah.
when you start talking about equitability.
But the concept is, if you're throwing a lot of water into the stormwater drains and causing more flooding, you pay more. If you're not throwing it in, if you have cisterns and you're keeping it out, you shouldn't pay because you're not contributing to the damage or problem. So there
And
is,
the reality is, any new construction, you're mitigating the stormwater runoff from a
Supposedly,
20-year,
yes.
25-year storm. Well, in Fairfield, I would like to see somebody that got away without doing it.
has it have people?
I seriously doubt it.
Yeah.
I've been designing stormwater mitigation systems in Fairfield for, my dad's been dead almost 40 years. I was doing it at least 5 years before that. So 45, 50 years, Fairfield has had an integral part.
Yeah, but even our stormwater system, it doesn't have the
Well,
capacity to
stormwater
handle.
system, most of it was designed
Yeah,
in the 60s and before with a 10-year storm capability, when you had much more open space that could handle excess runoff. You didn't have nearly the population, you didn't have nearly the density. So it was, okay, we got a little bit more water, what the
undersized.
heck?
so that's what the stormwater authority is should we, because it costs money, that you hire people who then do this analysis and who have to pay, collect the taxes and deal with the lawsuits and deal with.
Easiest way to say it, it's very similar to the sewer department.
It's a
I
sewer
was just
tax.
gonna say, and the
It's only
sewer bills that came out, boy,
instead of
people were-
sanitary sewer, you're talking storm sewers.
But it basically funds upgrading the system, is the concept. Which it needs to be done. So we can either do it from our taxes arbitrarily, or we can do it on some level of a fair contribution.
Okay.
Well,
All right,
that's all, the devil's in the detail, and things,
was wondering.
if you drop $10,000 worth of Coltex in your yard, and your neighbor didn't, but you got the same amount of square footage, you're gonna be a little ticked off that you're paying the same.
Hell yeah.
Same-
That's what I'm saying.
same
Everything,
Stormwater.
our local code requires anybody who does any work and changes a certain amount, it's gotta drop the coal tax in,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
all over my neighborhood, everybody in my neighborhood's gone up or bigger,
Yeah.
except for us. And so there's coal tax being dropped off in my neighborhood pretty much on a monthly basis. Flatbed trucks, a big, retention systems.
but I think that's good, because it's keeping it out of the stormwater system.
Yeah, no, I get it, but, yeah.
All right, I think, is there anything else anyone wants to say on
Just one thing I
the?
want to touch on, at the meeting in September, something was mentioned about the St. Mortar Dam. I did a little bit of research in it. First off, somebody said it'll overtop. Well, it always overtops, except for when they drop it down to do the maintenance once every year or two. It always overtops. That's its design. That aerial photography, it's been there since at least 1934. And the flood insurance study, it'll easily handle a 100-year storm. It'll probably handle a 500-year storm. So I mean, I don't, and I'm sure that the state has requirements for dam reporting. I imagine it's the Sand Water Association that's responsible for it, so they have to
It's a
report
private,
it.
yeah.
You know, somebody was concerned about it. I don't have a whole lot of concern.
Bill Hurley doesn't either.
But again, I looked at the flood insurance study with the profiles, and I mean, there's easily a 2 to 3 foot area that it will handle, because it's got wings on the side that'll channel it, and it'll easily handle a 100-year storm, and arguably it'll even handle a 500-year storm. So I'm not as concerned as the person that brought that. I don't recall who it was.
There was a gentleman who visited, but
Yeah.
Dick and I were talking about this last week, right? I mean, we were talking about, I'm not sure if he was as worried about the dam, he was worried about the dam, but he was worried about the work above it, right?
He was concerned about the dam overtopping.
Yeah, because
Was- in
they're
his
talking
words.
about making the bridge, opening up the size of the flow, right? And then we were talking about, there's another project below the dam, obviously it'll have no impact, but could have impact further down Mill River. But it seemed like he was worried about that any construction on a bridge north of the dam, upriver from the dam, if the space where the water could go through would be larger, then it possibly could put that dam at risk.
That's what he was saying, is
Very,
that,
very unlikely. I can't say zero.
Instead of a half inch of
Zero.
overflow, it would have 3/4 of an inch of overflow.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
so what I've asked Bill to do is just to pull some of the studies from some of the, when they've opened up culverts and in his concern, allowed more water to flow into the dam, pull some of those, because what Bill basically said is they have to do
Yeah.
rigorous studies
Oh,
to
yeah.
make sure that what they're doing
FEMA
is not
requires
gonna.
intensive studies for anything in a floodway.
So that should show that it's not adding significant incremental water. So we just need to send them those, I think. Yes, member of the public.
I would just like to repeat the invitation I sent out by email. Rick Brower and I are going up to this presentation by Deep in Branford about the beach guideline project they have. So if anybody wants to come along, we have some seats available. And then also, when is the CAFM annual meeting?
It is
And you
November
encourage your fellow
20th.
board members to
November
attend
20th.
that?
Yes.
I will not be able to attend
You're not
this.
gonna attend?
I'm in Chicago.
All right, so the Certified Floodplain Managers.
Connecticut Association of Floodplain Managers.
Is holding an annual meeting. It'll be up in, it was the same place as last year. What's this? There's a college up in- I can send out.
Central Connecticut State? Was that Central Connecticut State
It might be.
in the water?
It'll be a one-day meeting. It'll have a series of really interesting talks.
What day is that?
It's November 20th. It's all day. I'd be happy to carpool up if people want to go. There is a cost to
Becky
it.
being a member at large of the board of directors of the CAFM.
I am.
So I mean, just, a little support.
Yeah, thank you, Dick.
I plan to be there.
I think we would count as municipal employees, so if you do decide to go, there is a fee, but you could put yourself down as a municipal employee in the sense that we basically do our work for the town. It's still not free, but it's cheaper than not doing that. That's what I did last year, and I think we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that's true. And you get lunch and it's, like you said, the presentation.
The presentations are often.
In my opinion, all of these
I will send it
seminars
around,
and
yes.
webinars, you don't learn a lot of new stuff, but you always pick up some little tidbit of something that increases your personal knowledge base.
I agree.
I will send it around.
You gotta dig for it. It's there. You gotta pick the right sessions too.
Right.
Sometimes you even pick up a FERB member.
That's true. This is where I actually.
Oh my
talked to Greg and I said, hey, you live in Fairfield?
Will we be able to, from their manual, because we all went to the meeting last year that they did.
Which was great.
Yeah.
It's a really good presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's why I think I said that I don't expect anything new and exciting.
No, I'm talking about the Bramford meeting.
Yeah, it's the same, yeah, it's the same
Yeah,
thing. The Brentford meeting,
In
the
Branford?
the
They had
coastal
it in
one.
We
Branford?
had it
No,
here
no, the
last
coastal
year.
meeting that you're talking about with you and Rick Bauer.
Yes, it's Branford, this Thursday.
Right,
But
and we
went
had it
to
here
the
last
same
year.
meeting. Last year.
So we
It
can
was
all
back
read their,
here.
their book.
Yeah, was it the fire training?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And they put out that annual.
The one
And
thing
it's
I.
really good for people who live right on the water.
One thing I want you to ask again about, one of the things that they allow is, I think after October and before April, they allow you to go and pull sand
Yeah.
from the low water area up above the coastal jurisdiction line. So if you want to build your beach up,
Right.
if you live on the beach.
They're very specific how far you can go down and everything.
Yeah, you can't go below the low water level, I think. You can go from the low water level and take some of that sand.
And you can bring it up above the coastal
They
jurisdiction
know
line.
when
onto
the
your
fisher,
property.
you know, when it's.
So you can basically build a little mini berm on your property if people want to. But only during a certain time period.
Yes.
But here's my question. So there's low water and then there's low water. In a lot of the beach area, in a lot of the beach area, the low water, the tide flats become basically part of the beach for low water because they're completely dry. So can we pull from the tide flats? Or is it low water, which low water, when it's not low water, is above the tide flats? So I just don't.
Do it at night.
All right.
Carolyn wants to make a motion.
Would you like to make a motion to
Make a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So adjourned. Thank you.